Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Super Mario 64. In the last part, we finished off a lot more levels and grabbed a lot more stars in the basement, as well as got our third special cap, the Vanish Cap. So now we have every single one of Mario's main power-ups, and now it's time for us to finally explore what's beyond this door that we opened all the way when we first entered the basement. In it, we got this pulsating wall of, I guess, water, and in it is our warp to our next painting world, Course 9, Dire Docks, Mission 1, Board, Bowser's Sub. Our next water level, and even though I think about this level more with this song than Jolly Roger Bay, even, this is actively one of my least favorite levels in the game. For a couple reasons. One of the big things actually comes into the route we need to use to get to this star. We need to swim down that pit, up here, around this bend, and into the main section of the level, which is a giant submarine dock. For, counting 100 coin star, maybe 4 or 5 of the 7 stars, you need to do this swim, and it just really grinds on me after like 3 stars in a way I can't really describe why. With that said, this star itself is pretty self-explanatory. We need to board the submarine that's in the dock, and to do so we need to swim over to that little platform in the distance, step on a switch, and then jump across some blocks that'll show up when we do that, and then we can just grab the star outright. Pretty straightforward star, honestly. Something to note, though. This is another level you can't 100% on your first visit, because you actively can't do one of the other stars until you beat the nearby Bowser level. We'll showcase what I mean more directly, though, when we get to there. For right now, just get over here, grab the star, and board Bowser's Sub is complete. And what's notable about this is that doing this specific star also unlocks the next Bowser level outright, as the painting now moves further back. The Bowser level itself is within that little hole right there in the floor. With that said, we're going to do one more star in Dire Docks before we go into that Bowser level, as I know I can. Chests in the Current is our next star, and this one's a little dangerous. This is kind of a revisit to the one from inside the ship in Jolly Roger Bay, that we need to touch the chests surrounding this first little section here in a certain order. Messing it up, you have to start over and you take some damage. But what's really dangerous about it is that the final chest we need to touch is next to the whirlpool in the center here that's constantly dragging you in. Not only does that impact your controls, if you get sucked into it, it's instant kill. And the space you need to be in to touch that final chest and then swim away is really tight. You really have to mash the A button. I don't like the strength of that current at all. Thankfully, this is a pretty short star to do, even if you do it correctly and then die, so you don't lose a lot of time, but it's just kind of annoying. Thankfully for this star, at least, they're also a little merciful of where they place the star itself and that it's further away from the current, but that's also where part of the issue could come into play if you aren't positioned in a safe space and then immediately get pulled into the current. My best advice for getting this last chest is to kind of just go from the direction where the hole to the submarine dock is, as that at least gives you a much more straightforward shot. But if you're trying to get it done a little more quickly, technically you do more what I'm doing right now, but it's iffy. This is always just a little janky, but oh well, it's a little jank in a water level. What's else is new? Oh god! I forgot I paused because I just couldn't believe that happened. After we go back and get that star again, I'm mashing the hell out of the button. Mashing the button does make you move faster, but I think you gain less distance per row, technically, but you really want to mash to get out of a current like that. So with the second star in Dire Docks done, now we're going to go do the Bowser level, as I've done every star I can up to that point. That doesn't require me to skip a mission, which is a big thing. I'm trying not to do too much here. The second Bowser level here trades the bottomless pits from the first one for a pretty consistent flow of lava underneath it, which technically makes it safer, but the damage that the lava can do, partnered with how thin the platforms can get at some points, can really throw you off. A thing to note about this levels, though, is that there's things that are constantly rising and lowering. Not just the flow of the lava around certain platforms, but there's even going to be a little chunk of staircase that's constantly moving up and down in a way that's pretty hard to notice at first. What's really tricky here, though, is that there's some pretty tight jumps you need to make from the tops of poles to get to either where the red coin star spawns here, or from one platform to the next. Also, very easy to miss red coin here is this one up here in the corner. I grabbed that one specifically mentally because I feel like I've missed that red coin more than any other red coin in the game, if only because it's one of the few times where they actually hide something behind the camera like that, at least that egregiously. Kind of reminds me of the one heart tank in, I think that's Infinity Maginian stage in X6. I think it's been long enough since I last played X6. I think I've actually forgotten some things about it, and you know, I feel like it's for the better. I can use that brain space and other things. Now, I don't know why this level is what's making me think about telling this story. I maybe even already told this. The week break I joked about taking in an earlier part. That actually did happen, so I may have just forgotten something I've already talked about. But Mario 64 is a game I've resisted LPing for years. Largely because I feel like it had already been done enough that it's to the point where I don't think I could really add something. But at the same time, I do kind of want to cover it to talk about it in regards to other games more frequently. Because especially in like 2014, 15, 16, 17-ish era YouTube, like there was that list of small games that people joked about, you kind of always have to LP this. Mario 64 was on that, Mario 1 was, Mega Man 2, things like that. One of the Final Fantasies at minimum. And I don't know why, something about Mario 64 being on that list just made me really not want to do an LP of it for some reason. I'm not sure if it was contrarianism or me just going, I don't really vibe too much with the game, so I don't feel like I should. But nowadays, with me at least, I think even if I don't vibe with the game, I need to give it a fair chance and do an LP of it if it's something that's especially well respected. As, for one thing, I give my thoughts on it, but talk about its place in the history of the industry or the genre and all that, let alone the people involved with it, which I still haven't done for this game in specific, but that's because we'll get this, the first person in this game's credits is Shigeru Miyamoto. If you know anything about Nintendo, you know the series that man is responsible for and touched. But I guess I'll get more into that potentially later in the LP. Potentially, because the frequency of how stars go in this game means I have very little downtime for what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get this star the wrong way, and I've tried to do it this way for years. Flipping off the top of the pole cannot work unless you maybe try to aim for the little thin wall on the right there. The better thing to do is a wall jump in the middle section of this wall from point to point to get up to the top of the block to my left from the left side. With that star ground, we're good for our next Bowser boss fight, which is down at the center of that little funnel in the distance. You have to fall down into it, which doesn't exactly look the safest, but the level design leads you so directly into it. It's pretty clear what you have to do in my experience. Just watch out for those platforms that fall down, as if you hesitate on them, you're probably going to take some dumb damage. Pestering me again, are you, Mario? Can't you see I'm having a merry little time making mischief with my minions? Now return those stars. My troops in the walls need them. Bowser round 2 is a little more complicated. Now he'll do a little short hop now and again, which will make the entire platform tilt over, trying to get you into the lava, which I don't think is instant kill. It's been long enough since I got hit by it, I actually can't remember. But at that point, he leaves himself very open to just grab his tail and spin him around once again and throw him into the bombs. Like with the first fight against him, one shot is all he takes. He's a very easy fight still. Can it be that I've lost? The power of the stars failed me. This time. Consider this a draw. Next time I'll be in perfect condition. Now if you want to see your precious princess, come to the top of the tower. I'll be waiting. If it's not entirely clear, this game's boss fights are a little underwhelming, which in a modern perspective can definitely be a little off-putting or disappointing, but I get why they are the way they are, because not only is this such an early game in the genre and one of the earliest 3D platformers of this caliber, but also they probably wanted to focus more on making Mario's moveset and the levels feel a lot sharper, so the bosses taking some losses in quality because of that I think is worth it, because if they had been too ambitious with them, I imagine it would have felt a lot worse as a game. So Dire Docks Mission 3 is our 8 red coin mission, but it's also, I'd argue, the most tedious 8 red coins to grab in the game, and because of it, I'm actually going out of the way to get the 100 coin mission done now as well. What's worth noting, I think in terms of getting 100 coins, this has the strictest coin limit in any stage in the game. I think there's just barely over 100, like at most like 105 to 110. So you really need to make every single coin you grab count, especially these ones kind of hidden off to the side with the draw distance on the bottom of the water. So the main thing about this stage is that the 8 red coins are above where the submarine was. If we press the same switch we used to reach the top of the submarine, there's a second set of blocks over here that spawns and you can use to reach the upper level. With that said, the reason you have to wait until after doing the Bowser fight to do this stage, and why we did it in this order, is because until you beat Bowser, these poles we need to reach the 8 red coins do not spawn in for some reason. Not too big a deal because the levels are right next to each other, but worth noting all the same. You want to have about 50 coins before you go up here to try and grab the 8 red coins, as between the 16 coins the 8 red coins are worth, as well as the ones that are in the blue coin switch over there, you can get the remaining 50 up here, no problem. With that said, try to make it so that the last coin you grab is either the 8th red coin over on that platform in the distance, or one of the blue coins from the blue coin switch. As if you grab one of the other 8 red coins last, the star could spawn in places that are, hard to grab from, is the way I'll put it. Not as impossible as, like, from above the great ceilings you can climb in Hazy Maze Cave, or, the Pyramid of Shifting Sand Land, but worth noting all the same. Depth perception can also be a bit of an issue here, because of the relative camera angle and how kind of low it is, but it's not exactly hard, it's just kind of tedious. This is why I'm getting the 8 red coins done at the same time as the 100 coins. It's just better for my sanity and time. Also worth noting, there is a door here in the submarine dock underwater. It's the giant hole you can see kind of in the distance right now. That door is closed while the submarine is here, but in Mission 2 Beyond, when it's gone, it is open. And what's notable about that is it has a current that'll slowly try to draw you in, and if you get drawn into it, I don't think it's an instant kill, but you definitely get ejected from the level. I think you get sent back to the moat area, like the little lake next to the moat. I say I think because, frankly, it's been a while. I just know you really want to avoid it because I remember it being annoying. Most of these coins aren't too bad to grab. It's really only 2 or 3 that are really annoying, and even then it's the 2 that are the furthest away behind those iron grates that are real troublemakers from my memory. Trying to be impatient with them will not get you them in any kind of fast manner. You need to jump from pole to pole and to be patient with it. Jumping from pole to pole when the poles are stationary isn't too bad, but when they move like this, it can be a little iffy with the camera and depth perception. My best advice is to just move the camera directly behind Mario and the pole you're trying to jump to, and then wait until they're synced up. And with these 2 poles in particular, their movements aren't always synced up, so you just kind of need to wait until you get a good moment, like right there. I've missed that jump still more times than I'd like to admit, though. Once you get these 2 coins, honestly, I'd recommend just falling off and then swimming back to the start, because that'll be probably faster for you than actively trying to go from pole to pole all the way back to the branch point, but it really just matters what you think is safer, mileage may vary type stuff. I guess in the meanwhile, I could talk a little bit more about the staff. We already briefly mentioned Shigeru Miyamoto, who is just all over the place and has been in more projects that we can really name in any given time frame, but this game has 2 assistant directors as well. Takashi Tezuka is one of them, and if you know Nintendo, you know that name pretty well. Assistant director for Super Mario Brothers, was a game designer on Mario 2, NES, Mario World. They were the main director, and they're still doing stuff with Mario to this day, doing stuff like Yoshi Topsy-Turvy back in 04. Phantom Hourglass, they were a supervisor. Spirit Tracks, they were a supervisor. Their most recent profile stuff over at Nintendo was Brothership, they were a supervisor. Princess Peach Showtime, they were a supervisor. 1000 Year Door Remake, special thanks. Mario RPG Remake, supervisor. They're generally a producer and supervisor for the series nowadays. Meanwhile, the other one's one you don't hear about as often, who is Yoshiaki Koizumi. A Link to the Past, they were an illustrator for, same with Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. They did the script for Link's Awakening. They were a CG designer for Yoshi's Island. But after this, they were a scriptwriter for Link's Awakening DX and the director of Ocarina of Time. They were an assistant director for Wind Waker, DKC Return, special thanks. Mario 3D Land, they were a producer. Mario Odyssey, they were a producer. Their most recent role, though, overall, was Mario Strikers Battle League on the Switch in the special thanks. Otherwise, it was Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury as staff. They've definitely taken a bit of a backseat compared to a lot of the other major names at Nintendo at this point. This is my 8th red coin, but it's also my 100th coin, so we can just grab those 2 stars in a row. And what's notable is this also makes our 70 and 71st star. And that's pretty important because you only need 70 stars to actually go beat the game. You found 70 power stars. The mystery of the endless stairs is solved thanks to you. And is Bowser ever upset? Now on to the final bout. Only we're not going to the final bout for almost half the LP still, because we got 50 stars still to get on top of those. The endless stairs thing that they comment on is something we're not going to see properly due to my order of operations here, but if you're going from place to place as you unlock more doors, you're probably going to actually get to see those, and, well, there's a way around them being endlessly without getting 70 stars thanks to the art of backwards long jumping, but I'm not going to be able to showcase that now, am I? Do kind of wish the 8 red coin stars spawned on the little rim down there so you didn't have to worry about riding the poles back to it, but it's not a big deal. It just would have been nice if you could avoid the mechanic once you completed the star, but I think that's just what I prefer to do in games, kind of shining through rather than what should be done. That's 3 stars done here, 3 to go. Technically 4 done, 3 to go, counting the 100 coin star. But what's notable is the remaining 3 missions here in Dire Docks. 2 of them require special caps. So if you're going through the levels as soon as you get them, rather than doing every mission you can before moving on to the next one, you might not be able to complete either through the jet stream or the 6th mission, I believe. The 5th mission you can do, though. Also, I'm speeding up the swims through this area at this point because I'm sick of that climb. It's like a minute to 40 seconds each time. Through the jet stream requires us to sit right about here and get hit by 5 of these little water rings in a row. Upon getting the 5th one, the star will spawn at the bottom of the jet stream. Like with a very similar star back in Jolly Roger Bay, I think there's technically a way to get this star without the metal cap, but it requires such precise swimming that you might as well go get the metal cap anyway because you're going to need it for other stars. Mind you, if you're trying to maybe do like a minimum star run or all that, you're probably not doing much in these levels to begin with, from my memory. The metal and Vanish Cap are right next to each other over here. Technically speaking, the Vanish Cap does make it easier to get the metal cap here, but a backflip or a triple jump is all you need, so it's not that big a deal. Like with the similar star back in Jolly Roger Bay, though, the timer for Metal Mario here is short enough where you really want to get over there as soon as you can, so long jumping from where you get the metal cap is recommended. Next, we're probably on to what's probably the most precise star here in Dire Docks. Not that it's hard, it's just that the movement can be a little more precise than the other ones with the precision of the swimming. The Manta Ray's Reward. You may have already noticed here at the starting section of the level there is a Manta Ray swimming around, and if you've been paying attention, you'll notice it also lets off little water rings like the ones we just went through in the previous star. We need to swim through 5 of them in a row. With that said, if you miss one, your count resets, and depth perception here is already kind of rough, but I also can't quite determine the hitboxes too well here. It's just always been kind of weird. I remember the DS version of this being a little bit easier, but I might just be misremembering there. I jump cut to when I actually got it because that took me like 2 or 3 minutes of just messing up after like the 3rd or 4th one. It's just kind of weird, but it's very quick at the end of the day, so not a big deal. Watch out for that star, by the way, because getting that can be a little bit perilous seeming because of the current being that close to you. And now we're on to the final star, which is also arguably the easiest one here. I say technically because you can see the star immediately upon entering the dock area, and as long as you have the Vanish Cap, you can grab it potentially even before you do the Bowser sub-level, because you just need to get the Vanish Cap, swim down to the Iron Great Cage underwater, and go through it with the Vanish Cap and grab the star. This is one of my least favorite levels in the game ultimately, but it's not because it's like super annoying. I just find it at times tedious between the poles that are moving up there, the swimming through that same passageway over and over again. And it's an issue I have with levels like this in the 3D Mario games to begin with that I think Odyssey kind of avoids just because of its more collectathon nature. Specifically, there's a level kind of similar to this in shape that is a lot better about things because not only is there more side pathways, but Mario's toolkit at that point is just more advanced ultimately. But that's saying I prefer this much more researched game than the first essay in that genre kind of deal, you know, at that point? And with that, Dire Docks is Dire done, and we're now completely done here in the basement of Peach's Castle. Thus, we can now head into the door that we've seen since part 1 at the top of the staircase in the lobby. We can now head up to the 2nd floor of stages. I guess technically 3rd if you count where the first Bowser level and the Princess Slide levels were as the 2nd floor. Either way, we're getting up in the world and in the castle. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 9, we start off our next tier of levels. See you guys then.